Resident Evil Survivor was developed by Toei Software and published by Capcom, releasing in Japan on the 27th of January 2000 for the Sony PlayStation, releasing across Europe and the States later that year. Following up the original Resident Evil trilogy is no easy task, but to say that this game underperformed in all aspects is being kind. Its lifetime sales amount to just shy of 484,000, with a Metacritic of 39%. When you compare that to the mainline series at this point, yeah. Needless to say, I wasn't looking forward to playing this game, but you guys voted for the RE spin-offs, and I deliver. This is the first time I've ever played Survivor, and my review is going to detail what works, what doesn't, and ultimately answer the question, is it truly as bad as everyone makes out?
It is shit, Austin.
Oh good, then it's not just me.
Now if you've been enjoying my content, then put a like on the video and subscribe. It all helps me grow the channel and find a larger audience, but that's enough of that. As usual, this review is split into plot, gameplay and presentation. Now let's dive in. 1998, Sheena Island, a short time after the Raccoon City incident. Our story begins in the best possible way, a man surviving a helicopter crash by the use of the delayed forward roll technique. The only downside to this tried and true method of survival is you lose your memory, but only the parts that are crucial to the plot. Did he forget how to walk, talk, or control his bowels? Nope. Just his name and why he's there. As he says himself, the only thing left to do is remember and survive. What follows is our protagonist embarking on a quest of identity. Who is he? What's he doing here? And why has everything gone to shit? The way the game weaves its story is on brand for Resident Evil, being told through a combination of cutscenes and file pickups. To the game's credit, the file pickups here are massive. It rivals Resident Evil 5 how meaty these are, and they're spaced out well enough that they don't feel like a hindrance, each one serving a real purpose, either to fill out the history of the island and Umbrella, or to shed light on the horrible acts which have been committed here. Through the course of the journey, the protagonist believes himself to be Vincent Goldman, the leader of the Umbrella facility, and the man responsible for causing this outbreak and the horrendous experiments that have taken place here. Now it's about the time I admit something that I feel partly at fault for. Survivor does something I never thought I'd see in a Resident Evil game. They actually took my advice. I've said on many a review that when you come to test your virus, don't test on your staff. This only slows production. But I never thought they'd go full nonce and start stealing kids. Now we all know a Werther's original in a dusty van are magnetic for children, but that doesn't mean you should steal them. I now know how Karl Marx must have felt. So the plot essentially boils down to 3/4 of the game you think you're Vincent, an Umbrella leader who steals children from across the world and experiments on them, before unleashing a virus on the entire island, only to learn that no, you were sent by Leon to investigate the island, and you were impersonating Vincent to learn his dirty secrets. Your name is Ark. You don't steal kids. You're a good guy. Personally, I was bored of this twist. Every chance I got, I gave the kids a bit of medicine. Take your shot, bitch. I lent into it. I was Vincent. It'd be way more engaging to be a proper maniac who turns his life around. But nope. Instead, we get a generic cliche story which serves its purpose, if your purpose is to be as forgettable as humanly possible. Resident Evil Survivor takes the series into first person, only leaving this perspective for cutscenes. Now originally when Shinji Mikami envisioned Resident Evil, he thought it would be in first person, but due to technical limitations and inexperience working in this way, this idea was scrapped. Now, I'd love to smugly say Survivor should have learnt from this and never pursued it. However, I can't. I actually quite like it. Survivor feels like an on-rail shooter, except you can move around the 3D environments at will. So it's an off-rails light gun game? It's very weird. With the press of R1, an aiming cursor appears, and at this point you're stuck in place and free to blast away till your heart's content. It's essentially the same tank control shooting which existed within Resident Evil all the way till Resident Evil 5, except you can aim this cursor anywhere you want. And at that point it becomes more akin to Time Crisis or House of the Dead than a traditional FPS. There are two ways to play this game on its release. In Europe and Japan, Survivor was compatible with Namco's G-Con 45, which must be the best way to experience the game hands down. However, in America, due to the recent Columbine shooting, the light gun compatibility was cut, and instead you'd be stuck with the PS1 controller. Unfortunately for me, my experience was the latter. The way I played it was I used my PlayStation Classic to emulate the game, and playing it on a modern TV, there's no way I could use a gun com with it. So, I tried to put myself in the shoes of my American audience and see how you guys fared. Surprisingly, I really enjoyed it. It's not great by any stretch, but it strangely felt intuitive to play. It didn't take more than a few minutes before I'd mastered utilizing space and aiming for those critical hits. Using the D-pad to aim isn't great, but it works. It isn't anywhere near as inaccurate as I thought it would be, and I've got to give it some credit for that. Now, following that revelation, I'm going to stick to the positives for a minute. The map. Resident Evil up to this point especially relied on maps to plan your routes, to cut down on backtracks to the save point and to keep you moving onto the next unexplored location. Survivor's locations all have maps, and they work well enough to show you the layout of the environment, to aid you in choosing the right door to continue the journey. Without them, you'd enter a room and could quite easily lose track of which door you came through. It's essential, and it works to alleviate frustration. The map also gives you options. As you progress, you're presented with multiple exits from one location, and when you enter these paths, you can't go back. At first, I was furious at this, as I felt I'd missed out on exploration, but by the time the game wrapped, 1 hour 45 minutes later, it was clear why it was designed in this way. It's supposed to encourage you to replay the game, to see what you've missed. There's 4 instances of these branching paths across the game, each with 3 or so routes that you can take. Now what's eye-opening is depending on which path you choose, the story will play out very differently. My first playthrough, I didn't even get to meet Vincent. As far as I was concerned, he died right at the beginning of the game, falling from the chopper. Now I understand the idea behind this approach. The issue is, you'd have to be mentally deficient to want to replay it. Let me explain. It's too easy. Across Ark's quest for identity, you encounter hundreds of enemies, from the lowly zombie to Mr. X and everything in between. Hunters, Lickers, Plant 43, it's essentially a greatest hits of the original trilogy, yet none of them feel like a true challenge. Ark runs at such pace you can easily get enough distance to get your shots off without any sense of danger, and if you somehow manage to get cornered by an enemy, Ark can take a ridiculous amount of hits before he drops to caution, let alone die. So you just let them wail on you, while you stand there shooting them in the face. There's literally no danger. Following that, there's no reload button.
A what?
That's right. It's a light gun game where all your gameplay is based around shooting, and you can't reload. This is how reloading works.
I suppose nothing hurts you.
Only pain.
Across the game, you get an assortment of handguns which all have their individual strengths and weaknesses. Do you want stronger power but slower speed? Or a fast fire rate at the cost of power? Choice is always welcome, and I had fun experimenting with the different handguns. Now what helps is these guns have unlimited ammo, which suits the type of game this is. I have no issue with that. But when you have to blast off 5 rounds into the void just to have a fresh clip going into the next encounter, it's frustrating. It's a ridiculous oversight. I honestly don't understand this at all. Now, your more powerful weapons like the grenade launcher or shotgun have ammo which you need to find across the environment, and to reload these you can combine the ammo from the menu, which is on brand for the series. But 99% of the time, you'll be sticking to the handguns, and so omitting the basic option to reload is insulting. It's like Survivor doesn't know what it wants to be. It has elements of a light gun shooter, elements of Resident Evil, but it doesn't commit to any of them. Sure, You can find new weapons, heals and ammo across the environment, but you never need to do any item management. Why would you need to worry about resources when you have unlimited ammunition in the pistol, which, even if you use the default one, is good enough to complete the game with? There's zero puzzles, zero save rooms or respites. It's just keep moving forward and never look back. And even if you want to artificially slow down by exploring past areas, you literally can't. You have to wait till the next run. The pace you run through the game and the lack of challenge associated with the enemies you encounter ruin any chance of building atmosphere. It's completely mindless. And that's fine if it's an on-rails light gun shooter, but it's not. I honestly feel like this game would be hundreds of times more enjoyable if, instead of branching paths, it gave you the ability to explore everything. Sure, they'd have to change how the story is delivered, but when you experience what's there right now, it can't possibly get worse. If anything, it would give you more time in the world to be able to flesh the story out even more. Instead of it being delivered in the most cliche way possible, it would have had a chance to explore the relationship between Vincent and Ark, and make him feel like a compelling foil. In summary, I have no issue with the way this game actually plays. It's weirdly enjoyable. I just wish key design decisions had been made to bring you into this world and keep you there, rather than rushing you through and hoping you'll come back for another run. It underserves the potential this game has and ultimately fails to cater to either the arcade shooter or hardcore Resident Evil fanbase. Resident Evil 2 and 3 looked incredible on their release. I remember being blown away by the number of enemies, the differences in zombie models, from what they were wearing to their body type. So what happens when you take these same models and put the camera to first person? It looks awful. Enemies that from a distance look and move convincingly, for the time, now move like they've shit themselves and look anything but imposing. The models are so blatantly lifted from RE2 it screams low effort and low budget. And nowhere is this more true than the cutscenes and voice acting. Remember the FMVs that feature across Resident Evil 2 and 3? Yeah, well, forget them. Here it's all in-game, and by God it's painful to watch. Couple this with voice acting that is so bad it makes RE1 Oscar-worthy. It's one of the funniest games I've ever played. Now here's a few of my favourites.
I can't believe you're not dead yet.
You're human. You must be the leader of the cleaner unit sent by Umbrella to destroy the evidence of this biohazard.
Whatever. I don't have time for your pathetic games. I have already sent the self-destruction system. This island will be gone in a matter of minutes. Adios, Ark. Oh, this can't be.
What? A spy? Thank you. You are a good boy, Lot.
Now there's one moment that will live with me for the rest of my days. Imagine just getting out of a living hell. You've got two children who are depending on you to instill some confidence. And you say this.
What are we gonna do, mister?
Yeah. What are we gonna do?
I don't know, but don't worry. We can fly as long as we have fuel.
I can't believe the localization team didn't change this. But thank God they didn't. It's the highlight of the game, no doubt. In saying all this, there are some positives in the presentation. The menu sounds and door transitions return, and no matter what entry they're in, they always flood me with a wave of nostalgia. It's something so ingrained in me that it's just guaranteed to make me smile. On top of this, the game emulates what the original trilogy did so well. It has a score for each area of the game, and this style of scoring has always been extremely effective for Resident Evil, and something I wish the remakes and newer entries would consider returning to. Ambient noise is great for building tension, sure, but having memorable pieces of music outside of the save themes is a great way to tie an area of a game to your long-term memory. Now in saying that, Will I ever remember the soundtrack from Resident Evil Survivor? Probably not, but that's not the sound design's fault. That's solely down to me never wanting to revisit this game ever again in my life. Resident Evil Survivor shows what happens when you have a small budget and a muddied vision. It's a game which fails due to a cliche story, lazy visuals, and key design decisions which take away any chance of redemption. It's easily the worst Resident Evil game I've ever played in my life. Now if you decide to experience this game for yourself, then prepare for one of the funniest games of all time, albeit not for the right reasons. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then put a like on it. Tell me your thoughts on Resident Evil Survivor in the comment section. I try to respond to everyone on my channel, so I'm really looking forward to see what you guys think of this. And finally, subscribe to the channel for more Resident Evil content. Up next is Resident Evil Survivor 2 before I dive into Resident Evil Gaiden. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. See ya.